Our moderator for today's program is Charlotte District 2 City Council member James Mitchell. He was first elected to the Charlotte City Council in 1999. Councilman Mitchell is employed as Managing Director for Integrated Capital Strategies, LLC. On Council, Mr. Mitchell is the Chair of the Economic Development Committee, the Vice Chair of the Housing and Neighborhood Development Committee, and a member of the Restructuring Government Committee. Mr. Mitchell has held several leadership roles with the National League of Cities and currently serves as President. Thank you for helping us kick off our corridor conversations here in your home district.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, wait a minute, we can. Did I do that already? Senator Graham? Okay. Do I really do this? Can everyone hear me? Yes. Yes. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming to what we call Historic West End in District 2. And just so we can pretend one day that we are truly family, focusing on how to revitalize the great vision we have here. I know I have some neighborhood leaders here. I would like for them to stand. And then by show of hand, how many relatives do I have here? Raise your hand. Very good. Very good. Well, my neighborhood leaders along the historic West End corridor, please stand. I don't want to call you out. Please stand. Let's give my neighborhood leaders a Lastly, no one city councilman can do this alone. It takes several votes on council, and anytime I have the opportunity to recognize my colleagues who joined me in this effort, I like to take the opportunity to do that. So this morning, it's a privilege to me to introduce you all elected him for another 2-year term. Thank you, my good friend David Howard. David. Now, you didn't come to hear me, so you came here to really hear from our panelists to talk about what I think is a great future and the great opportunities we have in historic West End. So without further ado, I have the pleasure to introduce the 4 people, and I'm going to call them experts, because in their own way, they bring a lot of talent, time, and energy to the historic West End. The first, I have the pleasure to introduce Senator Malcolm Graham. Malcolm Graham is a member of the North Carolina Senate. His Senate district includes Huntersville, Beatties, Davis, and Davidson. Senator Graham is the special assistant to the president of the University of Junction City Smith in the aspect of university relations and government affairs. Prior to this position, Senator Graham was the founder of the Center for Supply Diversity, a research organization that provides corporate supply diversity solutions. He is happily married to Kim Graham, who is a community relations manager for Bank of America, and they have 2 lovely daughters. Let's give a warm welcome to Senator Malcolm Graham. The next panelist, boy, he has a tough job because he has to keep David Howard and the mayor and I happy, is Brad Richardson. Brad oversees all day-to-day business operation with the Economic Development Division, which is part of the city's Neighborhood and Business Service Department. Brad has specific responsibilities for the City of Charlotte efforts in business retention, expansion, small business development, private-public partnership, and workforce development. Please welcome Brad Richardson. It's nice to have an intelligent African-American woman on the panel with 3 men. We have a great one, Jennifer Coble. Jennifer represents Friendship Community Development Corporation, which is an arm of this church, Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. It's a nonprofit community organization that has a charitable and education purpose. The organization's primary objective and purpose is to work with community to revitalize or stabilize community service by the Beatties Road corridor, and to provide housing for seniors as well as special needs for our population. She's done a great job, but I don't want to steal her thunder, but as you were coming up Beatties Road, you will be able to see some of Jennifer's work. Let's give Jennifer Cole a round of applause. This last gentleman keeps trying to get away from me. He worked with me in planning, then he left me with the neighborhood services, and every time I keep telling John Howard, you get to come back and stay in the corridor. So it's my pleasure this morning to introduce John Howard, who's been an urban designer and planner for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Department for over 10 years. He has worked with various government agencies on the business corridors. He has worked on the passenger safety project, transit project, such as the Charlotte Streetcar and the Blue Line Rail project. He has worked extensively with the development community on various rezoning proposals and zoning text amendments. In his new role, John is the project coordinator with the Neighborhood Business Service Department, and he's managing, get this, the 2012 Quality of Life Project. Please welcome John Howard. At this time, we will have a nice presentation from Senator Malcolm Graham about the great work Junction C. Smith is doing in the corridor. Senator Graham.
Thank you, and Councilman Mitchell, and good morning, everybody. It is indeed an honor as well as a privilege to be here on behalf of the Charlotte Regional Realtors Association to make this presentation. I came to Charlotte in 1981 as a freshman at Johnson C. Smith University, so I've been on this corridor for a long time. And it's great to be back in the capacity as special assistant to the president at Johnson C. Smith University. I also wear the hat as chairman of the Beatties Ford Road West Trade Street Task Force for the university, and that's the umbrella that I'm talking about today. When Dr. Ronald Carter came to university 3 years ago, he stayed uptown. The university wined and dined him uptown. He ate uptown, and then he came to the university for the interview. He left a progressive uptown, skyscrapers, fancy restaurants, nice hotels, and went into the I-77 bridge near the Bojangles restaurant, entering into West Trade Street, Beatties Ford Road. And he called it the difference between night and day. When he accepted presidency, he said he wanted to do something in reference to begin the process of really revitalizing the West Trade Street, Beatties Ford Road corridor, and asked me to join him in that endeavor. And I accepted that responsibility, and what you will hear today is about 3 years worth of work that the university has done thus far. The first thing that we did was to acknowledge the work that the neighborhood leaders have already done in the area. There has been a lot of planning, a lot of hard work that's already been done prior to my arrival, as well as Dr. Carter's arrival. We want to thank the neighborhood associations too for the foundation that they laid so that the progress that we're making today could happen. We formulate the West Trade Street Beatties Ford Road Task Force, and Jatanya Adams and others in the room who are members joined me in that task force. And our concept was just to bring all the stakeholders together, the property owners, the neighborhood leaders, the university, and anyone who had an interest in revitalizing this corridor. And the university realized that we owned 100 acres on Beatties Ford Road. And before, we didn't act like we did. Everything that we did was behind the gates. And Dr. Carter said, never no more, that we are going to be an urban university, and that we were going to take our programs, our activities, and our building to the street and act like we own 100 acres on the corridor and work in conjunction with neighborhood leaders to promote the area. And that's what we did. The first thing that we acknowledge is that before any development could occur, that the neighborhood had to be safe and clean. So we gathered our 100 football players and our basketball players, our cheerleaders, and we engaged on cleanup campaigns where we literally walked the corridor picking up litter and debris and trash to make sure that our living room was safe, was clean. And we worked with the city of Charlotte and James Mitchell to get the street cleaners to come and just clean the street, etc. Just doing those basic things. We also had to make sure that the corridor was safe. And we worked with the city to formulate a mutual use agreement where our campus police now is able to patrol not only on campus, but the corridor outside the gates of the university. And we thank Councilman Mitchell for the substation that is on Beatties Ford Road, which made cooperating and working with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department extremely easy and beneficial to both of us. So we expanded our footprint in terms of securing the area around the university and on the corridor. We got with Councilmember Howard and we formulated a ULI study. There were a number of studies in this area and we didn't want to recreate the wheel, but we felt it was necessary to do some homework as well. So we worked with Councilmember Howard and we did our ULI study, Urban Land Institute study, which kind of talks specifically about some of the things that we wanted to see, that West Trade Street, Batesford Road, and our focus area, the university focus areas from the I-77 bridge near the Bojangles restaurant to the historic Excelsior's Club. We call that a chewable bite. The corridor is long and extensive, and what we want to do is just focus on the area that we can kind of put our hands around and begin to show immediate results by the work that we were doing. So that was our focus area. Clearly and surely we are focused on the entire corridor, but certainly we had to take chewable bites. So that's the area that the university is focusing on, from the I-77 bridge to the historic Excelsior's Club. We did the ULI study. We partnered also with the Charlotte Center City Partners to work with their 2020 plan, and they all came to the same conclusion, that Uptown Charlotte now expands beyond the I-77 bridge. It goes to surrounding communities like Belmont and Seagull Point and North Tryon Street, and of course the Johnson C. Smith University area. So we are a part of the greater Uptown community. And when the City Council adopted the 2020 plan, they adopted that statement as well. So Johnson C. Smith University is now in Uptown Charlotte, and we're glad to be there. We also wanted to make sure that we had access for transportation for our students. The Gold Rush, the Uptown Commuter Shuttle, before February of this year, stopped at Johnson & Wales University. It didn't come underneath the bridge at all. We thought that was wrong. Again, we act like we owned 100 acres in the university, so we paid to play. It's cost $40,000 a year to bring that bus underneath the bridge to the campus of Johnson C. Smith University. It's a free ride for all our students. It's a free ride for all the neighborhood associations and community leaders and those who want to get on the Gold Rush. But we thought that the symbolism of that bus was important to the efforts that we were making to revitalize the corridor. So now you can come on campus and jump on the Gold Rush, or you can jump on it on West Trade Street or Batesford Road and get a free ride to Uptown Charlotte, courtesy of Johnson C. Smith University, and we are glad to provide the service. We also worked with the mayor and the city council to bring $25 million for the streetcar to Charlotte. That grant will bring it from Presbyterian Hospital to the Uptown Transportation Center. We'll be working with the mayor again to identify more resources to bring it from the Uptown Center to West Trade Street, Batesford Road. Long-term goal that we see the streetcar as a stimulus for economic development along the corridor. We engaged in projects. We did all the fundamental groundwork. We worked with the council. We worked with neighborhood associations. We did the studies. And then we said it's time for the university to invest beyond the gates. Dr. Carter made the proclamation on campus that we're not going to build many buildings on campus anymore. Most of the construction that the university will do will be outside the gates of the university. The first project about 2 years ago was the old Griffin Tire Company. We worked with the Griffin family to transform that building into a teaching facility for the performing arts. So students can go there today for dance classes, art classes. There's a black box theater there. And it was the first major development other than the Family Dollar on the corridor. Again, a narrowly focused area between I-77 and the Excelsior's Club in quite a while. So we were proud of that building. And it's up today. And things went so well with the Griffin family that we embarked upon another project significantly larger, and that's the Mosaic Village, which you see coming out of the ground on Batesford Road today. Mosaic Village is right next door to the Arts Factory. It is a 4-story parking deck. 7,500 square feet of retail. The parking deck has a usable green roof that will accommodate about 200, which will give you the best view of uptown Charlotte once it's completed. It will be a student apartment complex that will host 300 students in suite-style apartments. It's under construction today. You see it on Beatties Road, West Trade Street, I'm sorry, as you go into Trade Street. And it is due to be completed September of 2012. And have you seen the construction site? By show of hands coming up. So it is a project that we are very, very proud of. The City of Charlotte and Councilmember Mitchell played a role in terms of contributing $3 million for the parking deck. It's going to be a great project and a stimulus project for West Trade Street, Beatties Road. The bookstore, the two-way site next door to the Church's Fried Chicken, right across the street. The university is working with the Smith family, no relationship to Johnson C. Smith, to renovate that site to transform it into a university bookstore and print shop. FedEx, Kinko's, Barnes & Noble type of shop. We're cautiously optimistic that sometime next year we'll make an announcement in reference to when that project will start. But that's our vision for that property. We're working with mechanics and Farmers Bank to form a mutual use agreement with them where we will plan and develop their site. They're interested in a new building and we want to help them get into a new building and also move our Metropolitan College, which is our adult evening program, from the campus to the corridor. So we're working with them on that. The Davis House, we're renovating the old Davis House, probably one of the most historic buildings in the city. That project is under construction. There's a new STEM building. The university received $35 million a couple of months ago from the Duke Endowment, and that part of that money will be used to build a new STEM building, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's going to be the largest building, about 70,000 square feet on campus. That will be broken ground for next year, and while we'll be on campus, it will overlook Beatties Road, so you'll be able to see that building as you drive along the corridor. So there is an old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and so what I will do is pause and actually let you see exactly what's going on by a quick video in reference to all the projects that I described, so you can kind of get a visual of what's going on along the corridor. And Ms. Lindsay's going to help me out. And I picked out the music. I'm a big jazz fan, so the music is mine. Okay, I'm just going to get the music from you. That's the I-77 bridge project I didn't discuss. That project will be completed January of next year, January 19th. It's a neon light project underneath the I-77 bridge that we're doing in conjunction with the Arts and Science Council. It's about a $250,000 project. Only yesterday, the NCDOT finally approved the project, and we'll install it in December and present it to the community in January. That's the arts facility, the teaching facility for the performing arts. Classes are being held there as we speak today for dance, painting, black box theater, etc. This is the old oyster site. No development there yet, but we think it's an excellent location for institutional use. A grocery store and my husband Mitchell has been working on for years. But it's a prime piece of property that we believe is critical to the growth of the corridor. Because it sits right across the street from Mosaic Village. That's the 4-story parking deck, green roof, 8,500 square feet of retail student apartment that's under construction today. It will open in September of 2012. You see the streetcar? We're working with the city to bring a streetcar down West Trade Street to the Fort Worth as well. So we're excited about that. That's a long-term project. The University Bookstore on that two-way site. 15,000 square feet, print shop and bookstore. We believe that 5.4 is our version of Trade and Tryon, so we really want that point of the pop. And right across the street from it is the site for the new building with Mechanics and Farmers Bank. We call this Smith Square. The Wellness Center is a building that's being constructed on campus as an addition to the gymnasium. And so that's weight room, holistic training, spiritual classes, etc. And here's the science building. It'll be the largest building on campus once it's constructed. 65,000 square feet or more of classroom spaces for our STEM program. And you'll be able to see this building as you drive down Bayport Road. We're going to break ground for it in probably April of next year. Your tour will be complete without checking out Bill Hall, so we do that in there. You see the roll rush where it stops on campus. So Bill Hall sits in the highest point of the county and one of the oldest buildings in the state. All this is being done with minority participation. We're working with the council to get 30% minority participation on Mosaic Village, as well as using minority contractors and other small businesses to promote the area. So visually you can see what it is that we're doing, and we're just so happy that the partnership that we have with the Griffin family, the neighborhood associations, the city council is all coming together to bring forward a truly great community. Thank you very much.
Repeat after me. JC. SU. Now we got to say it so Malcolm feel proud. So all right, we're going to do it together, right? JC is first and SU. Okay, ready? JC. Well, Senator Graham and Johnson C. Smith is doing what we call collaboration. During this day and time, no one can fulfill and do things by themselves. Let's give JCSU and Senator Graham a round of applause. I'd like to introduce, before I get to Brad Richardson, one of Senator Graham's colleagues in the North House, in the General Assembly, our own House Representative of District 99, Rodney Moore. Rodney, please stand. Thank you, Rodney. And one of my neighborhood presidents tried to sneak in, but I know all of you. Dr. Jones, stand up. Dr. Charles Jones, stand up, Dr. Jones.
You got pretty good taste in music too, eh?
Now we're going to listen from Brad Richardson with the City of Charlotte. And y'all need to tell Brad, say, Brad, show me the money. Okay, on the count of three, we're going to say it together. 1, 2, 3. Show me the money. Right, it's on you, man. And then we'll do show me the vote. 2 in the room.
Well, thanks. I'd love to have that soundtrack as I talk. That's kind of cool. I'll be very brief. I've got 3 slides I want to talk to you, but I'll just introduce a few folks from city staff in the room that I see. Chris Hemmons is over there. Chris, raise your hand. Chris works in business corridor revitalization work. I'll talk about what that means in just a moment. We've got Allison Naftel and Jen DeRue. Raise your hand, folks. Over there at that table, they provide neighborhood level assistance and support in a new service area strategy that I won't talk about probably today, but happy to spend some time with you afterwards if you like. Angela Greer, who works in the Economic Development Office as well, back there as well. So I think that's all the city staff. We're glad to be here this morning. I was glad Malcolm brought the video. I think that speaks volumes of the energy, and I appreciate, and we appreciate, at a staff level, the energy that Dr. Carter and Malcolm, Senator Graham, I don't know protocol, but Malcolm brings to the conversation today. It's a really big deal, and things have changed in a very positive way. What I thought I might do, was it clicker somewhere around there? There it is. 3 quick slides for the realtors in the room, just to give you an understanding of how the City Council sets priorities for spending some money. I'll talk about that. And then I'll talk about some types of projects that we can participate in, and I'll pick 5 examples from this particular part of town. So the map behind me is a map very important to us and drives a lot of our activities day to day. It's the large blue area. Has been around for a decade or so, and it's called the city's business revitalization area. It spans from the airport around the Eastern Mall, Independence Boulevard. You've been around this town, and you know those are the areas that the city council spends a lot of time talking about. There's been historic disinvestment, suburban flight, but really great structure, infrastructure, bones, neighborhoods, leaders are all there. So we've got a business corridor strategy in place since 2007 to spend some dollars and some time and energy in the big blue area. You'll also see 5 green areas. They're smaller. I don't know how well they show up on the screen, but these are what are called 5 priority business corridors or commercial districts, if you will. And we're talking today about the Beatties Ford Road corridor, the one sort of going north on the map. Just as from a landscape perspective, there are 5 priority areas. There's the Freedom Wilkinson Moorhead area, Roswell's Ferry Road, which is not very far away. In fact, it's in some ways, in my thinking, historic West End and the west side of Charlotte. Roswell's Ferry is close enough to town. Beatties Ford Road, the North Tryon Street is the 4th one, North Tryon Street, going sort of east from downtown or northeast. And then Eastland area. We all know that Eastland, if you're in the realtor community, is a drag on that part of town today. So those are the 5 priority areas, the framework the City Council likes for us to operate within. So today I just wanted to zoom in just a little bit closer. You can see the breadth, and Senator Grant talked about it. This is a very long corridor. Spans from Center City all the way up to this part of the corridor on the other side of 85. So when we talk about working and spending time and getting to know neighbors and businesses, we tend to think of this part of the corridor and the breadth of the corridor. It has different characteristics, as you know. You've got the university as a major institution and anchor, and that's struggling with the big chasm between the Center City and its front door, and that was very well described, I think, by Dr. Carter as night and day difference, and there's some move afoot to remedy that. But as you guys know, you've traveled up and down this corridor, especially neighborhood leaders, you know that it's an area that is diverse. It is an area that has a lot of land uses along it, but there's some retail, there's some housing, institutional uses. So that's the breadth of the corridor. And I'll conclude my remarks, and certainly want to leave time for tons of questions, with types of projects that the City of Charlotte participates in. We feel our role is to bring the City Council good projects that are catalytic in nature, that can change the nature of the community, and we tend to think a lot about taking the dollars that we have that are taxpayer dollars, leveraging them into private investment to go alongside, so we get more money in the project. We leverage private dollars. We also want to make sure that we identify a public purpose for those dollars. We're limited by statutory law how we spend our dollars, and to be buying something that the public generally would appreciate and enjoy and be traditional city dollars, public investment. And we also want it to really have a ripple effect on the community. So there's a couple of things I'll show you now, 5 areas that I'll talk through real quick. The first one is public facilities. You nod your head, that is a traditional use of public dollars, and the example we'll give is the Metro Police Division, which if you take a look at it, I appreciate the context within which we are now building public facilities, the police stations, the fire stations, very well done architecturally and blended nice to the neighborhood. That's a really good thing this city does that many cities do not. So I want to point that out. So that's one use of public dollars in this area and around the town. The second one is public infrastructure. Streetscapes, median improvements, and there's a project on the drawing board now, hopefully implemented sometime in the next couple of years. It's the median improvement in the Beatties Ford Road streetscape. If you're from LaSalle Street to I-85, just a few yards south of here is where the project parameters are. So making the environment better for and safe pedestrians to cross, traffic to move, businesses to locate into. So that's the idea of public improvements along the streetscape. The third ones are matching grants, where we'll take some public dollars and work with a property owner to match his investment or match her investment to improve it. Generally, we think of matching grants in terms of improving the outside of a building. We call these facade improvement grants, making the building look better. We work with the police department to provide security grants to make the building safer. You know, economic development falls apart if you don't have a safe place to build your business and live. You know that. We also work on contaminated sites through matching grant programs, sites that have been damaged over the years from chemicals from a dry cleaning store, gas stations, and others. Those are some examples. And then we do work with business district organizations, a couple of them in town, who have some matching funds from the city to help build capacity in the business district leadership. So those are some matching grants that we use. These are traditional funding or uses of city funds. The fourth one on the list, and Malcolm alluded to this as well, ULI, Urban Land Institute, funding of the land use or visioning of that 5 points intersection around the university. So we participated in that as well. And the fifth one is just a catch-all. It's called public-private partnerships, and we keep it general because it really is unique. Every deal looks a little bit differently. And this is where we try to get creative in problem solving. We work with a developer who wants to build something, and there's a Honda Odyssey or a Honda Accord or a Honda Civic model of the project that will just get by. But there's also a, give me the next part, what do you have? So there's a BMW project that would really be nice to have for the neighborhood, right? Sir, I saw you pull in this morning. But there's a gap between what the really nice catalytic project would cost and what the developer could afford. He's like me. He can afford the Honda Civic with 133,000 miles on it. So we try to find creative solutions to fill that gap, right? And we have to find a public purpose. So we participated in the Mosaic Village project. We worked with Malcolm and University, the City Council, to figure out a way to make that project work for the long term and really be a great idea for the community. So that's the idea of public-private. It's really to do with a grant to meet a gap in the project, or we'll reimburse the developer over 15 or 20 years with new taxes that come into the area because of the investment. So those are the types of ways we participate. So hopefully that's helpful to let you know a couple of things. One, that we do participate and can, and the City Council has poured a lot of energy and time into establishing areas of town where we do spend a lot of time and energy and have some funds available. So with that, I'll pause. I'll advance and let Jennifer talk for just a minute and then we'll be available.
Let me know. I'll try and get it to work. Can y'all hear me okay? Welcome to Friendship. I'm the Executive Director of the Friendship CDC. And we did grow out of Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, which is where you are now, here in our conference center. This is an exciting time for the Friendship community. You are on the Friendship campus, and right now you are located at what's called Friendship 108. The church has been a part of this community for 126 years. We celebrated our 125th anniversary last year. And over those years, the church has been acquiring property. And where you're sitting is at you look at a map, the top of what we affectionately call 108. But we really have, I think it's like 112, maybe 115 acres right here. That's the church. There's some exciting things that are planned for this parcel of land. Now I'm telling you that so that you can understand how the Friendship CDC, what we call the CDC, came about. The CDC was formed to help develop 108. So here we are, here I am, and here we go. The CDC has been around for a decade. We are completing a decade of service. We are a small organization. We are a across the street, there's an old post office, and I'll tell you about that project in a minute. And then there's a little building, really maybe about as long as this stage, maybe about 4 times as wide. That's where we are. That's where I am. I got a few staff members in there. We got a few more in the post office. But we've been doing a lot of work in this community with the help of the city. Councilman Mitchell, I have spoken with Mitchell on many, many occasions. And let me just tell you about a few of our projects. We began by purchasing, and this is the CDC, 2 parcels on Beatties Ford Road. And those 2 parcels now have Great Things. Great Things is a great place. If you've never been, you need to check it out. Great Things is a resale boutique. It's not a junk store, not at all. So I see some smiles, so some folks have been there. Some very nice things at Great Things. The reason we started there was because we were like, what can we do to really help this community? What can we do to bring people to see the great things that we have here, hence the name of Great Things? And so we opened this store. The store does very well. It's run off of donations. People donate their items, we sell them. Those proceeds are then used to help fund our other programs. We have many volunteers that help out at the store. And the store also is able to help the community. I don't know if you guys remember, maybe I think it was in August, we had some awful rains. And there was some flooding, some significant flooding on this side of town, which hadn't happened in a very long time. I think there were about 15 families that we were able to give clothes to, household items, because we're right here. It started raining, we started pulling what we had. When the waters subsided, we were able to get them what they needed. So Great Things has a couple of different missions and a couple of different ways that we're affecting the community. And that's one of our programs here at Friendship at the CDC. In 2007, and some of the city folks here probably remember this, we purchased some more property in Lincoln Heights. And our Lincoln Heights president is here, Ms. Thelma Byers-Bailey. She's also one of our board members, along with Mr. Aaron McKeithen, who's one of our board members. And we bought this property. It contained a couple apartment buildings, a duplex. They were in bad shape, really bad shape. Our intent was to rehab the project. We got a loan initially, bought the property and said we're going to go ahead and rehab to try and start some development in the Lincoln Heights community. But the work was too extensive. There was asbestos and just too many things that needed to be done. So I went to talk to our good friend, Councilman Mitchell, and a couple more of our good friends on City Council. And we were able to get our first home grant, which is a federal grant. With that, we were able to pay out our mortgage and demolish the property. And there were some special things that needed to happen with that because of the asbestos, but we were able to do all of that. Fast forward a little bit to about 2010, I said, I gotta build some apartments, Someone was asking me, what are we gonna do with this piece of land? It's vacant, they're tired of looking at the grass, what are we gonna do? So again, we worked with the city, and we were able to get our second federal grant. And that is to build and construct the apartments. Fast forward a little bit more. And here we are. We have our plans submitted. We're waiting on the city to get back to us. And we hope to begin construction in 2012. We are building Friendship Gardens. That is a 12-unit facility. There will be 8 2-bedroom units and 4 1-bedroom units. And that is located at the corner of Custer and Catherine Simmons. When you're going down Beatties Ford Road, Food Line is on your right. On your left is a beauty supply store on one corner. And Nikki's, if you haven't tried Nikki's, you should stop by Nikki's and get yourself a Nikki's. But they only take cash. Go in there with a debit card. We are right behind. So we're right there. We are diagonally behind the senior center. And so we're very excited about that project. And that one's been a long one in the making, starting back in 2007. there, we had another project. Homelessness is a very big issue here in Charlotte. On any given night, there are probably between 58 to about 6,300 people that are homeless. So the church decided we were going to make a substantial impact and looked into the CDC, figure out how we're going to do this. We started working with the Salvation Army in temporary shelters. We have several buildings here on our campus. We have this building directly across the street from the old church in 3301. Then we have the old enrichment center, and then the little trailer annex I was telling you about. We began using the old church as a place to provide shelter during the cold winter months for the homeless. And out of that grew a permanent facility, which is called My Sister's Home, and that is now located in the enrichment center. So once again, and Councilman Mitchell said, I need to get this project done. I was previously on the board, and somehow got convinced to do this for just a little bit, and here I sit 3.5 years later, but actually I love it. I really do. They have to kick me out. We went back, and we received another grant to renovate the old post office. That is an 85 square foot building. People live there. You can imagine living in a post office, so we've done a lot. There is a computer lab, there are classrooms, there is a library, laundry facilities, and there are dorms. And we are able to house 26 women. And they're in a transitional program, so it's not simply a shelter where you can come in and sleep, but we have a lot of education going on, counseling going on, because the goal is to break the cycle. And once we break it, then our goal is to help you move to a stable living situation. And in this instance, what we're plugging in right there is Friendship Gardens. So we have a continuum that we work with where people come in and they're homeless. We're building the next piece, Friendship Gardens. So once you start working, and that is part of our programs to help them not only find employment, but maintain employment. Once you start doing that, move you into the apartment. It's transitional, so there's still supportive services. And once we're seeing that you're successful at that, then we'll help you transition to the next phase. We also own some single-family homes, and we have a family there now that was previously renting an apartment. Now they're renting the home. So we're working with them to get to the next level of either permanent market rate housing or home ownership. Which brings us back to 108. 108 has many different components. The church, of course, was the first piece that was built. There are plans for a senior housing center. There are plans for an intergenerational center. And that would be a very, very neat building. You can get the concept wherein you would have the daycare on one side of the building and perhaps the adult daycare on the other side. And there would be an interaction at some point between the groups, because we don't want to leave our seniors out. We have an amazing senior program at this church. If you come over here on a Tuesday or Thursday and you smell really good food or hear really good music, it's not the kids, it's the seniors. They're eating, they exercise, but their exercise, think seniors, chair rubbings, no. They move the chairs, the tables, they're in here doing the wobble, doing the Cupid shuffle, all kinds of line dances. They have a great program, and we have a great commitment to our seniors here. There are also plans to do cluster homes and some other types of housing on this property. In addition to, at the very back of the property, which goes to the highway, that is a floodplain, so we can't develop that, but instead we have a park. So the Friendship Sportsplex is due to come online as soon as some funding becomes available with the county. And we're very excited about that. There are about 10,000 children along this corridor. We have some small community parks, but they do not have the parks where they can go and play football with the house league. They don't have the big soccer fields or the big baseball fields on this side. You can go down to Hornet's Nest, but that's outside the bus line. our kids through here, a lot of them are on the bus line, and they need to, have greater access to something a little bit closer. So we're very excited that Friendship was able to be a part of that, and that we are leasing some of our land it's back that way. This is a very beautiful piece of property. There's actually a stream that runs through this property. So if you're ever able to walk the property, and you do that certain times of year, I encourage you to do that. But there's a lot of growth that will take place here, that is taking place here. We're very excited. Friendship has a strong, serious commitment to this corridor. This is our home, and we are glad to have you here. There are other programs that the CDC is developing to enhance that. Our newest program is called Sweet Creations. I'm excited to tell you about this. Sweet Creations is a culinary program. One thing that we try and do here, and one thing that Dr. Jones, who's our senior pastor and the chair of the CDC board, emphasizes is good stewardship. Taking care of the resources that we have, managing, allocating life. So we have the ladies at my sister's house, and they're with us all the time. So they're kind of deep. And it was very expensive our first year because we outsourced our food. So I went to Dr. Jones and said, I need a kitchen. And said, we have 2 on campus. We won't have a 3rd. I'm not really the best person to tell that to, because when there's a will, there's a way. So the way is Sweet Creations. We are now using the beautiful commercial kitchen that we have here in this building, which 5 years ago was state of the art. And so we are preparing food for my sister's house. We are also beginning to service events here at the conference center, and we will see more of that in 2012. What that does, and it kind of brings everything full circle. We're able to use the resources that we have. We are able to provide a training opportunity for the ladies to get them some experience. And we are able to generate a little bit of income when other groups come in and they're able to, access these services just as if you would go to a hotel and use their menu to plan for your event. So some very exciting things going on here. We've had a lot of help from our friends at the city, also Wells Fargo and Bank of America have been tremendous partners with us as well. And that's just a little bit about what we're doing here at the CDC.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have a whole lot to say now because you just heard the best, I think, from everybody. You heard what planning is all about. It's all about partnerships with John C. Smith and what a champion can do and what a great investor can do. To have a master plan off their campus, to build housing, mixed use, to build services for students is major. We can write all the plans in the world that we can, but until you have an investor, or a major investor, or a champion, it doesn't mean anything. So thank you to JCSU for doing this. It's been huge. And Bragg, we need the money, to do our make it happen here as well. Yes, right. So to be a partner, to build the parking decks, to have public parking, to make sure the retail works, to help us build our sidewalks, infrastructure, to help us build our public buildings. We need that piece as well. And Jennifer is showing how you take a community asset like Friendship and you use your existing resources. You reuse buildings that are there. You take old buildings down that don't need to be there, and you build new housing for people. That's what planning is all about. So they are actually doing everything that we on my side, or was my side, that we used to do. We talk about land use and short-term goals and long-term goals. What can you do now within 5 years that's going to be sustainable for the next 15 or 20 years? So I'm glad to be a part of West Trading Base Fort Road. I didn't go far, Councilman. I went across the street to a much nicer building. It's a great piece of architecture. It's a historic landmark. The columns, the 15-foot ceiling, the whole nine. So it's a great structure. That's where Brad and I exist at Old City Hall. I've got a few slides to talk about what our involvement has been in the West Trading Base corridor. We've written several plans in the past 20 years, and they've all taken on a different life as we move through different economies and different social changes. But essentially, every plan has the same goal, and that is to look at what are your short-term goals again and what are your long-term goals. And we do this all with neighborhood help. We use different partners such as CACS, our transit folks, with ED. We work with different partners in the community to lay down the framework of what your vision is. It's not just our vision coming from the top down, but what is the vision coming from the inside out. When you look at places like NODOT or Plaza Midwood around the Thomas Avenue area, or even South End, they had a partner come in who had a vision, and then we kind of came in later and helped support that vision. We didn't come in with a plan, they kind of had the plan already in place. So we kind of helped move the plan along, if you will. Again, we look at land use as one major component of moving a neighborhood forward, zoning, of course, urban design, architecture, just kind of my background and expertise. So when I came to West Trade, 84 Road, years ago, and Manny Marshall grabbed me by the ear and said, I need your help with my community. I said, you got a lot of great things here. You've got historic landmarks that are all within walking distance of each other. You've got a great housing stock. The issue was, one, perception, again, and two, is once you get off 84 Road, most people don't get off. They stay on that corridor and go to Huntersville or get off of 85. Nobody goes left or right. But if you do, you see McCrory Heights. You'll see Wesley Heights, Middlewood, Smallwood, Washington Heights. All these great neighborhoods that are off this corridor, not even a block. So I think the issue has been, how do you get people to see what's off the corridor and what's actually in neighborhoods? And I've done about tours this year. I got another one coming up next Friday, actually, with a chamber group. And these are longtime Charlotteans, been here for 20, 30 years. And once they left the corridor, they never came back, because the perception was it will never get any better. And that's been nothing but false. When you look at Wesley Heights and what Judge Bolton did with historic districts and kind of rebuilt that community, when you look at Billable, Smallwood, and all the infill housing there that's gone up, and even on down to Dalebrook, a very stable neighborhood, kind of tucked back in the corner, but it's got some very great homes that are ranch houses, very strong architecture. They'll be there for another 50 years probably. So you have a great housing stock along Roethlisberger Road. I see Mike Downey in the back. He's done some great building over there just to rebuild that housing stock. Not to tear it all down, but to kind of just improve it and renovate and rehab. And there's a good variety as well. You got large houses for newer homeowners, and you have smaller homes for, maybe you don't need a 5-bedroom house or 4-bedroom house, maybe a 2-bedroom if you're a retiree. And you're going to come back and not have to go too far to get your groceries or come uptown to be active. It's all about aging in place, providing multiple level of homes for everybody, not just one type of homeowner. So we try to look at all these things objectively as a planner, as planners, and try to plan for those changes, and not to change the whole look of a community, but to allow it to grow organically, from the inside out, not from the outside in. The next picture you'll see, you mentioned, well, you heard about the Metro Police Station. That was the first one that we've done as far as a parcel-specific project, where they're not in the shopping center, they're not renting a space somewhere else, but they bought the land and they own the land, and they are there. So there's a sense of permanence. And they wanted to be on the corner, on the thoroughfare. So we worked very hard with the police department and some of their concerns early on about safety. You can see the building is kind of urban form. It's up to the street. It's not back behind the parking lot. That was very intentional. It was meant to have a presence on the corner and make sure that you see that the building is there and they're not going to hide behind trees and hide behind parking. So now this has been a model for the Eastway Division Station, the Providence Station. This is going to be the new format for how they build urban police stations. So I think 84 Road can be proud of the fact that the first model was actually built here. And it's been looked at by many different people, architects who want to get involved in more public design. This is how you do it. You build something with permanence, with a certain kind of civic look to it. People love fire stations because they have that permanence. You don't see many fire stations getting torn down. You see them going into neighborhoods and they become an architectural feature of a community. So that's how police stations are going to be built here on out. You also heard about Roethlisberger Road. We spent a pretty good amount of money making that street safer. People use Roethlisberger to catch the bus. It was a 4-lane road, now it's a 2-lane road with bike lanes. We saved some trees on the corridor. We've actually gone in and housed the Northwest Corridor Office for code enforcement. So again, going in and reusing buildings that are there existing. There's an old theater that's out there now that got renovated. It now houses, I think, a dental office. So it's not all about just removing structures and wasting resources. You guys sometimes go in this economy now, you can't just tear down stuff and build back higher and denser. You got to kind of be more responsible about land use and going with your existing assets. And also in Washington Heights, we did a lot of infrastructure improvements in terms of new roads, new sidewalks, landscaping, lighting, just to make sure that we build those permanent pieces that need to be there when the next wave of home ownership comes in, so people can feel like they live in a complete neighborhood, something that they can actually use and enjoy. And as Malcolm mentioned, Bay Fort Road Task Force has been a great group of people getting together and looking at short, mid, and long-term goals. We work hand in hand with Malcolm and his group to look at what is the low-hanging fruit, be it a cleanup or bringing the gold rush up into campus free of charge and then back down at CCC. Those are really achievable short-term goals. More long-term goals, of course, are the campus master plan buildings. The mosaic is going up now. It's going to be done next year. So it's great to be involved in these kinds of long-range planning efforts to support what the neighborhood's going to look like behind the corridor. Now they're going to have that mixed-use retail we've been talking about for 20 years. Now you're going to have, maybe a sit-down restaurant or some other uses that people really have wanted all this time. So it's not coming to fruition. Again, in terms of development, you can see on the left, far left and far right. On the far left, we've got some great architecture in the corridor. Again, along Ross's Ferry, there's some great reuse, some great old bungalows, nice infill development going in. And on the far right, again, you see some development along further down Ross's Ferry where the city's gone in and purchased with Southern Mecklenburg Development Corporation to redevelop existing structures to have office uses on the corridor to populate the street. Because you can't have a street without something on it because the perception is it's not a safe environment. So that together with the city's streetscape improvements, we're trying to recreate a complete street to make it livable, to make it look like it's sustainable. And in the middle, you see the two pictures of the two single-family homes. This was an effort in Washington Heights back in 2002 or 3, I believe, where the neighborhood leader wanted to have a different type of housing design from Habitat. They had about 20 parcels, and she didn't want the typical design because the perception was people know Habitat House when they see it. Slab on grade, very minimal architectural features, very minimal finishings, and we partnered with Stan Wilson in economic development a few years ago to find money to kind of offset the increased construction costs of having a nicer home built. So we took Burt Green at that time around the neighborhood, showed them what the features are of a nicer designed home. It's got a usable front porch, it's got a brick wrap foundation, it's got window mullions and siding, it's got a steeper roof pitch. It has just those little small details can turn that house from one look to another. And the cost of me was $8,000, I believe, was the gap. And not much for 30 years. And you get a much nicer product. So we did that as a partnership with Habitat, and I'm happy to say that they're using it more often in different neighborhoods now. So it's been a huge success. That's kind of how we as planners and designers get involved. It's not always doing the long-range stuff. This is the short-term fun stuff I get to do, or I used to do when I was in planning. You see things that happen immediately instead of waiting 20 years to see something happen. So every now and again we get some successes where you see it happen the next year or two and not have to wait until I'm retired to see something happen. But that's the end of my presentation. So.
Now is an important time. We would like for you to come to the microphone here. We are recording this to ask myself or the panelists any question. First of all, the ground rules are there's no dumb, stupid question. And two, if you can keep it really to a question out of state, we really appreciate it. We want to get through many as possible. I want to recognize one of the persons who's here. She spends a lot of time in the business, Baseball Corridor, Ms. Cheryl Hampton. Cheryl, did you move? Cheryl Hampton with JCSU. Thank you, Cheryl, for your time. Now, I'm going to start off asking the first question. I don't want you all to be bashful. Dr. Jones is coming up. Dr. Jones, stay right there. I'm going to give you the microphone. Panelists, the first question. What future investments would you like to see in this area? Senator Graham?
Yeah, I'll take that. Again, I would love to see more retail. I mean, that's what everyone is really hungry for. Again, the university's narrowly tailored area from the I-77 bridge to the Excelsior Club. We would love to see a TGI at Fridays. We would love to see more student-centered shopping. We would love to see pizza with parlors, Pizza Hut. We would love to see a grocery store that would service the community. I would love to see an urgent care facility sponsored by Presbyterian Hospital or Carolina Healthcare System. Retail, because the goal for the university is to create an urban environment where people can walk and talk and shop and pick up, you know, a newspaper, a jazz club to go along with the Historic Excelsior Club. More entertainment options for students as well as for the neighborhoods around them.
That was pretty all-inclusive. I would say a couple of thoughts. Once an urban university has students not necessarily getting on a streetcar or shuttle going a mile down the road to the center city, but they've developed their own town center around that 5 Points intersection. So it's a place-making exercise around 5 Points with the emergence of the university, enabled, you know, with a future streetcar extension that would connect through the center of the city. That alone is important, but the 5 Points building up of that intersection, the hiring retail and entertainment options for the students, that would be neat for me, I think.
Gentlemen?
I think we can piggyback off that as well. You know, they say you spend as much time at work, it seems like sometimes, as you do at home. And for those of us that work on the floor at lunchtime, their options are few and far between. And that's just lunch. So for the folks that live here, and maybe for seniors or individuals that don't want to always cook, or maybe they're too tired, they've been working, then you gotta get in your car and go 10 more minutes. Pick a direction. You can go any one, but it's not right here. So we do need more right here. And then also, we need for it to come across 85. There's some great communities right here. Northwood Estates is right behind us. And like I said, there's much planned for this piece of property right here. But there are definitely some things that are lacking. Just basic things, you know. I mean, turkey sandwich, something that hasn't been fried and dipped. I mean, I eat it. Don't get me wrong. I just know I eat it every day. But that's what we definitely like to see.
John, future investments.
Everything they said, pretty much. They have captured everything. I think the one thing that I like seeing is more cultural uses in an area, whether it's the artists using the building to have like a dance studio. I think those kind of things kind of help provide a unique flavor to the community. I think they have the right housing stock in the middle of those small wood, and even this year to have alternative uses besides that kind of supplement retail and the school. Kind of a transition between the younger people to keep them involved to the older people to keep them involved. So I think I'd like to see more cultural uses.
Dr. Charles Jones, sir.
Gracious ladies, gentlemen, distinguished panel. My name is Charles Jones, and I've been blessed to be on the corridor 64, my 74, 2 blocks from John C. Smith. And we've come from a scary place from time to time. Listen to State of Grace. It ain't over. My grandma used to say, boy, we ain't where we going, but thank God we ain't where we been. I wanted to just say to you that that little gentle breeze you're feeling are the ancestors, the sisters with the fans, just smiling at each other, saying, you kept the faith. And all of the elders, those who we've been struggling in the vineyard, feeling now the smile and pride, not ego-wide, but that we have come to a moment Well, it's going to happen. So again, to each of you, I'm blessed, ain't stressed, and don't let nothing get in your way of the same thing. I wanted to know, first of all, at what time, John and Brother Mitchell and all, am I going to be able to sit outside, sip a little Merlot around in the Johnson C. Smith area, so that before St. Peter calls me, I'll know, and that'll be the symbol. All right. Bless you.
I think you summed it up correctly. We are making great strides on the corridor, and I'm not sure about sipping Merlot soon, but Mosaic Village does have 7,500 square feet of retail, and we've been getting a number of positive inquiries from chain restaurants, banks, convenience services to occupy that space. So when we make the formal announcement, I think the community will be pleasantly surprised of the wide variety of options. Obviously, 7,500 square feet isn't a large space, but it's large enough to accommodate maybe 3 or 4 retail type usage along the corridor that we have not seen before. Drive-through bank, one that we're working with right now. Denny's, for an example, is interested in putting a Denny's Express in that building. We're meeting with them in December. So I think we have a lot more options for not only the students but the residents. And I would like to join you over a glass at a jazz bar. I think that's something that we would love to see on the corridor to provide again entertainment options for the residents. Lastly, one of the things that the university, Dr. Carter and I have been talking about has been doing remember the old Jazz Charlotte that used to be in Uptown Charlotte years ago, about bringing that back and doing that on the campus on our football stadium. If you haven't been on Johnson C. Smith football stadium, it is the best view of Uptown Charlotte anywhere. And so we're contemplating a 2-day jazz outdoor concert series that you may be able to get a sip, I'm not sure.
Oh, wow, thank you. You can have a Chardonnay, you don't have to have a Merlot, it's all good. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just wanted to thank you all for your presentations. Just 2 quick questions. Number 1 is, how could I or the community immediately get involved in some of the projects that are going on, whether it's just assisting on a board or helping in any way that we can? And then the second question is, there's generally a negative impact sometimes when there's a revitalization going on. We've heard all positive, which is great, and we want to hear that. What's been the negative side of this, if there is one?
Yeah. Well, fortunately for us, and again, narrowly tailored I-77 Bridge, Seltzer Club, Cheryl Hampton in the back, my colleague at the university, has done a tremendous job working in conjunction with the neighborhood association. So they've been really a part of the planning process. We kept them informed. We kept them, we value their opinion. They've been there longer than many of us. And I think we all understand that we want this community to be a part of the change and not victims of it. So by collaborating with them, working with them, keeping them informed, give and take with them, we've been able to achieve success. The community, if we do nothing, it's going to change. If we do nothing, it's going to change. If we do nothing, it's going to change. So I think they have embraced that it's going to change, and I think we all have accepted the idea that if it's going to change, they want to be able to be the individuals molding the change and advancing the change and championing the change. I mean, so we kept them a part of what it is that we were doing. And what was the second part of the question, James?
Yeah, were there any negative?
Yeah, everybody thinks their property is worth more than it is. There has to be realistic expectations on the cost of dirt. And obviously, people, investors, should make a profit. They're business people. I support that. But they have to be realistic in terms of what the market will bear. And that's what we are facing as a university when we want to partner with others and bring people to the table. And we talk to a property owner and say, well, Malcolm, I think my property is worth $8 million. And I'm like, no, it's not. So it's just kind of working with the property owners along the corridor who are excited about the change and want to be a part of it. But when you cut down to business strategies and markets and what's real and what's not, there seems to be a disconnect today that wasn't there about 4 years ago.
Our experience has been somewhat similar when we decided to renovate the enrichment center, worked with the neighborhood president, Northwood Estates, and we had a couple meetings. Same with the park when we were talking about the sportsplex, and we met with the Lincoln Heights community and we were talking about what we were going to do with the parcel we had at Catherine Simmons and Custer. Negative is a strong word. I think when we've been presented with challenges, I always look at challenges as opportunities for growth. And so what happened with these conversations, we were able to learn, what does the community want? What are their fears? Why don't they want this? And sometimes it would be a small group. Sometimes it would be you couldn't get in the rooms with the sportsplex. My child needs, and you had everybody advocating for their child, and that's fine. And of course, just explaining the process. But we try and take those chances, those opportunities, as our turn to educate about the process. We're trying to accommodate as many of the questions and deal with as many of the issues that we can, and also kind of give our perspective, what it is that we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it as a part of this community. Not coming in and it's just going to be our way, but really using it as an opportunity to grow and get to know our neighbors. So negative might be too strong of a word, but we've had challenges and we've had growth.
The gentleman right here. Yes, sir.
It's on? Okay. Just a comment on the negative reactions. My reference point kind of goes back to some people here not are aware of the Greenville area, and they went through redevelopment. I think what happens a lot of times, people have been in areas for a long period of time, and they are the individuals or ones that have to bear the brunt of the sacrifice. They have to leave their area, and they're not afforded an opportunity to say, come back to that area and experience the new growth. Everything is afforded to the new people that come to that area because the existing people have left, and they don't get to experience that growth and new development of that area. And my question was about the retail. We're all aware that we need more retail, commercial development in this area, not necessarily in the John C. Smith area, but further on up. And I think we need to maybe look at more so some permanent development. I know you mentioned, like a drive-through, fast food place, and that type of thing. Well, that's fine, short-term, and it maybe facilitates the students. But you got long-term residents here. We have to go across town to go to Home Depot, to go enjoy a nice restaurant and that type of thing. So we need to look at some more permanent type of businesses, and if we're willing to spend $5 million for moving expenses for people to come here, we need to expense that money to people that have been here for years and years and have not experienced, the growth. People on this side of town have been in the areas 30, 40 years. We talk about property values. Our property values, you go across, 30,000 over here, you go same similar house in a different area, it could be $100,000. Okay, and when we have to sacrifice our homes and give up our homes to bring in development, and you want to give us $15,000 for the house, you're going to get negative reactions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I just want to probably on what he just stated. And I got a question as far as what's in the plans to encourage entrepreneurship in our area, because we do need businesses in this area. Like Sister Copeland stated, we can't even get a decent sandwich unless we drive. There's nothing around here. There's a lot of great neighborhoods in this area. And I'm just wondering, is there anything on the table that would help landowners that would be willing to sacrifice to bring some economic development on this side so that we can help create some jobs to secure our safety, because when we're not working, that's where we are in this. So I'm just wondering, is there anything on the board or any money available?
And I'm going to relate to the money man, Mr. Brad Richardson. He can talk about the entrepreneur model.
In this area to help ourselves. That's my question.
No, excellent question. Brad, can you address the entrepreneur?
Yeah, I'll do those real quick. I think I would say first we agree with permanent, better retail that you might find in other parts of the city or other cities. I totally agree. We agree. And it's hard work to bring retail to where retail doesn't want to go, from a demographic, disposable income, formulas in place about where they will locate a store, what kind of store, where it would be. We battle it every day. Chris, I introduced you to Chris Himmons a moment ago.
Chris, please stand up so people really can see you. Chris
was brought to the city. We hired Chris a few years ago for that purpose. How do you drive business development opportunities, not just retail, but employment uses, to your point, sir, where folks can walk to work, drive a short distance to work, employment opportunities. The best idea we have is a town center concept where West End itself has everything from retail, jobs, housing, a mix of each, and it becomes a community. And I appreciate Dr. Jones's optimism, and I don't have the perspective, but I appreciate that sentiment. But we do have a lot of work to do. We fully acknowledge that. Entrepreneurism, that is something that the City Council has asked us to work with them more closely on the draft policy of how we might support it. When we talk entrepreneurism, it's a range of businesses from the from a service level startup, so a person could open a restaurant as an example, or a technology company on the far extreme that might employ thousands of workers within a couple of years, so 10 years or so. So there's a broad range. So what we're working on now, trying to develop, is a strategy for how the City Council might participate in growing entrepreneurism, high growth, as well as what are typically termed lifestyle, those who might create a job for themselves in doing so. It takes hard work, it takes collaboration, it takes us knowing you and talking more frequently and having us looking for opportunities and being opportunistic. It's hard work.
We have 5 minutes left, and I know we at least have 2, possibly 3 questions. So, Roger?
Thank you. Roger Garum, L&T Company. First, I've been in this community as a realtor now for 16 years in both commercial and residential real estate. And I just want to take the opportunity because in the toughest times that we've had, the economic times the last 3 years, to see our city representatives and our county representatives do more in this corridor in the last 3 to 5 years that's been done in the last 17 years that I've been in Charlotte. So I want to say thank you very much for that first and foremost. The young man there actually took a lot of my questioning, so I want to rephrase my question in a little different way. I think Dr. Carter and Malcolm, you've done a wonderful job in extending uptown into the West Corridor. I guess my question, Brad, is asking about how have we been intentional to incentivize those companies that we want to relocate in our corridor away from the university and even further north where the density of the residential neighborhoods are. What are we doing to be intentional to incentivize them? And also, we're in Friendship. I'm a member of Friendship. You go from one end of Beatties Road to the other, we probably have 10 great churches. What are we doing to partnership with those churches to get the message out that there is facade money available to improve our neighborhoods? Again, I think we're on a wonderful path here, but it's right here at our tips. We can get it, we can turn it around, we can be more positive, and we can make it happen immediately.
Let me talk real briefly about incentives. And I think of a couple of things. One is you mentioned Chiquita and then the traditional tax incentives for corporate relocations. Those are typically driven by the space needs of where their workforce wants to live and where available buildings are. That's why you see Chiquita looking at Valentine or Center City primarily, exclusively, I should say. So I would tell you, though, that we do have, the council's policy includes that blue area of the map, I alluded to earlier, the business revitalization area, has eligible uses for traditional tax incentives. We are very aggressive in trying to bring companies to Charlotte or keep companies from leaving Charlotte through the responsible use of tax incentives. Those are for employment uses, not so much retail and restaurant and services. The second thing I'd say is we need your help. And one of the great things about today is sharing that the city does have money for facade improvements to make a building look better, to keep tenants in the building happier in their space, customers feeling better about where they're shopping, just through physical improvements to a space. When we do facade and grants, we also take a look at the parking lot, the sidewalk, the curb and gutter, things that might make it a place, just not the exterior only. Chris works hard to take a holistic look at a building and its adjacent neighbors to do more. We'll be bringing to the council in probably January, February, update to that strategy. We're going to be recommending, and Councilmember Mitchell knows this, increasing some of the limits on the facade program as an example. Some of the projects we're doing now, the owner can match up to a point, but the project requires even more capital because of the cost of construction. We just don't have enough. So we're trying to raise some thresholds responsibly to participate more. We want you to help us, and that's why we're so glad to be here with realtors who work with those making buying and selling decisions to utilize the money that we do have available.
Roger, thank you. Ms. Sherwood.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And to the gentleman there, I wanted to, and I thought it was imperative, Malcolm, my colleague up there, to let the group know that Johnson C. Smith cares about the entire corridor. And to that effect, we have, and that's part of my job, is to work with our neighborhoods. And we have about 6 or 7, 8 of our neighborhood leaders, neighborhood presidents that are represented here. And so I've been working diligently for the last 2.5 years, 3 years with that group. They are looking at from 16 all the way down to Mount Holly's Huntersville Road. And they've been working with their residents. They have created packets. We're working on branding now, hopefully to work with the city under the direction of Councilman Mitchell to try to do some branding, signage, everything in their neighborhood. So I encourage all of the realtors here to get to know the neighborhood presidents, These folks have been working diligently. They have talked to several groups around economic development activities past 16, bundling, looking at parcels of property. The nonprofit Historic West End Partners has done a economic development wish list. Looking at that, they've been citing properties that they feel would bring and further extend the development on down the corridor. So the university is helping them through my office and other departments at campus to do that. You mentioned entrepreneurship. We have a wonderful women's entrepreneurship program. This year we will graduate another 40 or 50 women out of that class directly. Many of them have businesses on this corridor, want to create businesses along this corridor. Dr. Carter is committed to entrepreneurship. Our whole business department has been looking at that. He's hired Ron Stodgel to head up the Center for Diversity, Workforce, and Small Business Development. My center will be working with Ron to try to create, and our business department, faculty and staff and students, how we can expand this entrepreneurship program that we currently have. So it's been running for over 2 years. We've been working. We've had some of the realtors in our personal money management classes. We're doing the financial literacy for the residents and corridors, credit budgeting, how do you do your mortgages. We've had some realtors in. We had State Farm in last night. So the university has a comprehensive view to try to work with the residents in this area. We have to do work in phases. They started with what's closest around them, but they've also looked toward the other end of the corridor. And I'm so happy we have Seversville, Lincoln Heights, Oaklawn Park, who else I see? Hyde Park. We have Garden Park, Northwood Hills, Northwood States. We have Mr. Tanya Adams with the Historic West End. So it's there are 34 plus neighborhoods. I've been in every one of them. We took UNCC with the quality of life. Neighborhoods organized it. We got them out and we wrote all of each of these 34 neighborhoods. So the neighborhoods have been working to bring that development on down, and Smith is right in the mix with them, trying to continue the momentum that was created around the closest sector in phase 1. So we are working. We invite your suggestions. We invite you to contact us. I'm at the Center for Applied Leadership and Community Development. My cohort, Mr. Ron Stodgel, is in the same building I am, Senator Graham. So Smith is intricately involved with the neighborhoods, and we are about creative placemaking, and that's why we're pushing so hard for our branding, continuing entrepreneurship, small business development. So we welcome working with you, continue working with Councilman Mitchell and the city. Thank you.
Dr. Robbie, you're the last one.
Thank you so kindly, my councilman. I live in District 2, and I am very happy to be here. I want to thank you all for the comments, and I also want to highlight Ms. Roxana Bendezil, who sent it out to all our listing of community people who are concerned about what's happening. I'm not a realtor. I am a sociologist by training, and I'm also interested in this corridor for many reasons. My son attended Johnson C. Smith University, and I want to keep him in Charlotte as much as I can. But first, I want to say to the gentlemen and ladies who raised the questions about entrepreneurship, that's an interest. I have a company called CAI Public Strategies. And one of the particular interests I have is this. How many of you have heard of a business called Amelie's French Bakery? As Councilman Mitchell said, Charlotte is leading the way to go all the way to the United States White House. Well, Amelie's went there, but not too long ago, we wouldn't have heard of them. I had an opportunity to count Lynn as a friend, and they were not an outside company. It started from a nascent organization, and it was just an old building. She slept in that building, but today, she has over 75 employees that she provides health care to as a result of the Affordable Health Care Act. That's the kind of businesses and opportunities we need in this corridor. There are many, and I'm glad to know that Johnson C. Smith has the women entrepreneurship. But we need black women and women to start businesses, and we need Brad. We need your money, Brad. We need the city money, Brad. Show us your money now. I will be coming. Councilman Mitchell, no, I will be coming to see you, Brad. And we need that because, all due respect, Denny's is great, but I would rather have a Robbie's or a Dr. Jones. Or that's what we need. We need businesses from the community. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know we said we would conclude at 11. I apologize for going over, but can we all join together and give our panelists a round of applause? Let me first thank each of you for giving up your pride and for being here and learning about historic West End. And last but not least, Laura, I need to say a big thanks to Elizabeth for putting this on and for the Charlotte Realtor Association. Let's give them a hand.
Councilman Mitchell has said it all, and I want to thank him for being such an excellent moderator. I want to thank Senator Graham. Thank you, Brad, for being the wealthiest man on the panel. And Jennifer and John, thank you all for coming here and sharing your insight and all the work you do for the community, and thank you all for being here today.